Sister, there's always this argument that most kids raised in foster home, chances of them succeeding in terms of living a normal life, not joining gangs, not derailing, is very, very limited. That's always, if you see, it's always like it's a testimony. Somebody grew up in foster care or foster home and made it in life or become a responsible adult. So it tells you all you need to know. That does now sound like it's actually the proper thing. It could be a case of out of an anger, a parent, I'm not advocating for that, that had some physical abuse on the child and is removed and taken to a foster care where her situation, the child's situation will even be worse. I had a story. In fact, they phoned me from Nigeria to see if I could help them. It's a Nigerian family, to see if I could help them. They took away the kids because I think it was a case of mildly smacking a child, and they took the kids away. And to the extent that the kids were crying that they want to go back to their parents, and that didn't happen. So would that be a case of killing a fly with a sledgehammer? You take the child away because of this minor thing and take her to foster care, where at the end of it might turn out worse than what you are trying to prevent.
I suppose what I'm saying here is, as a professional, I've been there. Okay, so some of the things that people say are untrue.
Right.
So that's just what I need to assure you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to another episode of Glascast Podcast, a platform for discovery where we dive deep into real conversations on trending issues and topics that affect and concern each and every one of us. We look at topics ranging from politics to economy, health, culture, entertainment, personal growth. I'll tell you, if you've not been following us, you've not been doing yourself good. I'll encourage you to go back to our previous episodes where we've talked about immigration, security in Nigeria, paternity fraud, surrogacy, post-stroke at its affects men's reproductive health. And go to any of the social media handles. Instagram, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and the handle is Glascast Podcast. So just follow, like, comment, and share, and spread the good news. If you get the news, don't hold it. And tonight, in this studio, we'll be talking about a very, very important topic as well. And I can assure you, I have competent and well-versed people in the studio to help us deal with the topic. It's going to be interesting, it's going to be educating, and it's going to be entertaining as well. I don't want to waste our time too much. Straight away, I want to introduce those in the panel who are very, very experienced in this area. To my far left, I have Mrs. Nwankwo. In the course of this episode, you will hear us refer to her as Sister Anne. Not that she's a reference sister, but because of what she's done. She's a social worker with so many years of experience here in the United Kingdom. She's worked as a social worker in mental health. She's a mental health expert in education, child support and child protection, and family support. So she's very, very experienced on the topic that we'll be talking about, which is child protection. She's also a community organizer. She's done a lot of work in Scotland here, particularly in Glasgow. When I call her Sister Anne, there is no child in this Scotland, especially Glasgow, that is under 20 years that doesn't know her because of what she's done, training our kids, raising them up, teaching them Igbo language and making sure that we don't lose them to this society. So our kids call her Sister Anne, and they has entered into the lips of our parents to call her Sister Anne. So that's why we call her Sister Anne as well.
Exactly.
And to my immediate left is a familiar face, a very experienced legal practitioner. I call him today. I will introduce him as Barrister Mazi. Make no mistake about the Mazi. He's very, very particular about that.
Very, very.
Barrister Mazi Ikenna Njoku. The other time I introduced him as a triple qualified solicitor, but I've gone back to check. He's quadruple actually. He's qualified in England. He's qualified in Wales. He qualified in Scotland, and he's been a lawyer, barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria for over 21 years. So tonight, sit back, enjoy, and when you learn, because we're going to be teaching life skills tonight. When you get the information, don't hold it, don't keep it to yourself. Share, comment, subscribe, follow, and let others enjoy what we're going to put out today. Straight away, I would start straight away with our a very important and experienced guest, Sister Anne.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah,
thank you very much for having me.
It's always a pleasure.
In fact, if I can chip in something here, Sister Anne, I would say that the class that she organizes for our kids helped to lay a foundation for this Glascast.
Right.
Because for us, instead of chatting as usual and wasting our discussions, as my learned colleague may call it, let's not waste the discussion. So we had to make sure that we pass across these ideas and these discussions to the public. So thank you very much, Sister.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Thank you, Sister Anne. In fact, I am committed to acknowledge you on that. You know, when we get our kids to this Igbo class group of friends, we sit outside, argue, talk and talk, and also, instead of wasting this discussion, let's put it out there and people will learn from it. And that's how this podcast is better. And Sister Anne, we thank you so much for that inspiration as well.
Thank you. I'm glad that it's benefiting everybody. That's why we have community. So it's our community. So we are building our community.
Yeah, you're a well-experienced community organizer. Thank you so much. And let me straight away, when we talk about child protection, what do we actually mean for the purposes of people who are out there, especially the migrants, the Black African community in the UK here? What do we understand, or what do we take it to be when we talk about child protection? Let's just start from that with you straight away.
Thank you very much for the question. I'm really very grateful and pleased to be here to kind of provide more awareness. I've been speaking to different communities, especially our community, about child protection, what we are required to do in this country because we migrated from different places and, we are here in the UK. So I think when it comes to child protection, where we are coming from, there are certain things that we do, parents do, that is acceptable. But in UK, those things might not be acceptable. So it's just really for us to understand, have awareness of the thin line that what we are supposed to do as a parents. For instance, I will give an example in Igbo land. So family have, we do in community, but the responsibility of a child is solely parents are responsible for their children. But unfortunately in UK, yes, you're responsible for your child, but the law have is that there's a parental responsibility, you have rules, you have boundaries, but government in overall have responsibility for all of us to safeguard and protect us. Now, when it comes to the child protection, so what does that mean in principle, as you have asked me? So what it means is that it's just a framework of safeguarding the children. A practice is legal. So let's understand that aspect. So it's illegal, and the practice for safeguarding children from harm, exploitation, abuse, neglect. So the whole lot of things, but it's the legal principle, and is underpinned by in Scotland is underpinned by a legal framework called Children Scotland Act 1995. So that's Children Scotland Act 1995 gives us the responsibility. It says that the interest of the child is paramount. It defines your role. It defines the right of the child. It defines what we do, for clarity. Then there is other legislation that still underpins a child protecting a child. So one of them is the United Nations Convention of the Right of the Child, that says that child has a right, not that it's only the adult that have rights. Children have their own right, so that whatever we are doing, that we should remember interest of the child is paramount, especially when you are talking about a child. So it's not your own feeling, it's the child's feeling. So you need to put that into consideration. So that legislation, then Scotland as a whole have a national guidelines on how they deal with the children. So there's a one that we call a getting it right for every child.
Right.
So they call it the GAFE framework. Then from there they go down to Shanari. So that's the anyway. But for your own, for the just for the purpose of clarity, it's just the legal framework for protecting a child.
Like that, if I could, by way of summary, is the laws in place, the policies, the practice to safeguard the child, to avoid abuse, neglect, exploitation, and violence, to make sure that the child's interests are protected and covered. And in all circumstances, whenever a child is involved, their interest is far above every other interest, even the interest of the parents.
Fantastic.
And I am aware in England, we have the Child Act of, I think, 1989, the one of 2004. And they have also incorporated the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child into their domestic law as well. And but further down the line, we'll talk about that the Online Safety Act that was passed in 2003. It's going to form part of the major discussion that we're going to be talking about now. But I'll keep that until we get there. Just to buttress what you've said on the legal framework and the practices. And I know, Mazi Barrister, I know you don't agree that anything is still working in Nigeria.
Not at all.
I would, do you have anything to say about the legal framework with Nigeria?
Yeah, definitely. I'll have something to say. if you look at just as Sister Anne said, the Children's Scotland Act that has been passed, that incorporated, in fact, I believe that's the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Yes. Scotland was the first, or is the first, devolved administration in the UK to incorporate that particular United Nations Convention into its domestic law, making it possible that although within the devolved powers that it has, making it possible that the provisions of that UN Convention on the Rights of the Child will be applicable locally in Scotland. And we know that there are lots of rights that are provided for the child in that convention. And to the adults, we are told that, according to that law, that in all actions concerning children, whether those actions are undertaken by private or public social welfare institutions, whether they are courts of law, administrative authorities, or legislative bodies, that the best interest of the child shall be a primary consideration. When I was looking at the Children's Act in Nigeria, 2003 Act, I saw that a similar provision was provided there. Which means that even they use the definite article the best interest of the child shall be the primary consideration. But all of us know here that there is the best interest of the child is never the primary consideration.
We are going to come into that. Just hold fire on that. Let's take it step by step. You mentioned devolved administration. For the sake of our viewers, in the United Kingdom, when we talk about devolved administrations, we have the kind of what we call the exclusive legislative list in Nigeria, the concurrent list, and the residual list. For the devolved administrations, we have the Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales. So to a certain extent, they have the power to make laws on certain things relating to them. When compared to Nigeria, where you have the federal government, the National Assembly, and the states and local government, which is unfortunately not functional. Part of the things that you always talk about. So that's just to clear that. Now, let me ask Sister Anne, as we fondly call her, Sister Anne.
Go ahead.
What's, in terms of protecting a child, what are the things you look out for? What are the red flags to identify, to know that a child is in danger or is at risk?
So thank you for that question. I think as a parent, you have that responsibility to make sure that your child is safe. Okay. So you are responsible for the emotional well-being of your child. Your physical, making sure that the child is well, that the child attends activities, that the child providing basic things that child need, the food, the shelter, and every other thing. So that's your responsibility. So as long as you're meeting up to that obligation and responsibilities, that child is safe.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we talk about abuse, harm, you can define it as much as possible, it's very broad.
Yeah.
But there are ones that we Africans, we don't take serious. When we talk about the emotional aspect of it, shouting, so shouting, yeah, there is something, when a child does something, you have the right to raise your voice, to say something, to make a point, and to make that child to understand that the child is crossing a line. But there is something, shouting is different. Are you doing it to instigate fear into that child? Or maybe you have stress. This country, we know how stressful it is. Maybe something happened in my work. I don't know how to, deal with it. Then I'm coming back. I'm transferring it, to an innocent child that doesn't know what happened to you.
Yeah, this is
So the emotional.
Let me come in there. The emotional. Now you mentioned this emotional thing. Yeah, it's good. I'm sure we all spent part of our adult life in Nigeria before we came here, and we
Yes.
know how we are raised up. A lot of times, I do think that the system here take it a bit far in terms of when you talk to your child. I'll give you a practical experience. When I came back to the UK in December 2016, came back here finally to be with my family, I noticed one trend.
Okay.
For 6 months, each time I talk, my children will say I'm screaming, I'm shouting at them. And I now, realize that, in Nigeria, I can tell you, more than 80% of Nigerians are partially deaf, but they don't know because of the noise pollution.
Yeah.
Now,
That's
there is
fine.
no intention to shout at them. It's because of where I'm coming from. You need to really speak very loudly. And when you are speaking loudly, you won't even know that you're speaking loudly, and the children will pick it up. And that has put some African parents, into trouble in this country. So what do you think that is like an overkill in that particular area of emotional risk or emotional damage to that child, particularly this area of shouting? Because we know Africans, we are loud.
Yes,
Make no
okay.
mistake about that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are loud. So what would you experience here as
Yeah.
a social worker and the cases you've dealt with? What is your thought about that?
I suppose my take there is when you go to Rome, you behave like Roman.
Romans. Okay.
Okay. So when you are coming into the UK,
Uh-huh.
you research how they behave and you align yourself, just like you're going to work. Do you talk to your colleague loudly? So even if maybe you come newly in a job, and with a period of time, you learn how they behave and you start behaving like that. You mind the way you talk. Maybe we can go to an Igbo meeting, we have the opportunity to express ourselves the way we express. But when you're in your work meeting, you do what they are doing. So that's the different one. So I believe the children, they know the way we talk, they know us. But when it comes to shouting, there is a shout that that will make that child to be withdrawn. You understand? So you need to start watching that sign. When you're speaking to the child, when you're raising your voice, yes, if your child does something wrong, you can raise your voice to make a point, but let it not be continuous, so that when the child knows that you're coming, that child will withdraw. You don't want that. So they will behave like that in the school. They can say something like that you're shouting. I think it's a kind of try to know how to communicate in the country where you are.
Yeah,
Tone down your voice.
Thank you so much.
Ask something?
Maz, you have
yes,
something
I wanted to ask something. You know that due to the uniqueness of the families that we come from, meaning that we are generally migrants to this place, I'm sure that my learned colleague did not intend then to shout, even though that the kid said he was shouting.
I didn't even know I was shouting.
So when we take our kids home, for instance, and they are in associations where people, of course, use the same vocal tone to talk to them.
Yeah.
Those things, do they have impact on them? on the kids?
No, it doesn't. I would say it doesn't have impact. See where we are doing along with the Igbo class.
Yes.
So people come, the children know the way we talk.
Exactly.
If you have your friends coming around, they know the way you greet. Sometimes my children mimic us the way we do, the way we greet, the way we start, and all that, that kind of thing. So they understand those ones. But the one we are talking about is when a child does something, that child knows that he or she has done something wrong. There is a way you go about it. You understand? There is a way you go about it.
Even at that, I still have issue with that in terms of I recently have been watching some few things on online about gentle parenting. Sometimes you talk to the kids in a very gentle way, they don't listen until you raise your voice. They know that in fact you are angry.
Yeah.
And I saw somebody was doing a research that when you talk to dogs don't hear us, but they hear the tone and they realize that when they saw a dog, that we are just talking to dog, you stupid dog, in a gentle way, and the dog was, around the owner and was comfortable, you stupid and you idiot, and just calling the dog names. But immediately say, hey, you beautiful dog. And the dog ran away. So that tone and that voice has a way of correcting and also instilling discipline on the child, not without the intent of abusing. A lot of things we do here is for the sake of the interest of the children.
Yes.
But because we are migrants, that is misinterpreted or misunderstood by the society that we find ourselves.
Yes.
Now, that's an aside. Let me come to Mazi. Sister Anne mentioned the risks and the red flags that we can find. And from what she said, I will probably be saying that you will totally agree with me that every child that is resident in Nigeria is at risk. Is that still your position?
Definitely. It's my position. Just as I was trying to make reference to the Act, the Nigerian Act, 2003 Act. When you look at that act, in fact, it goes an extra mile to draw attention to the interest of the Nigerian House of Assembly legislators to make sure that the interest of the child is paramount. It uses the word, in fact, paramount in it, in the Nigerian Act. But let us look at the statistics.
Okay.
Over 51% of Nigerian children suffer from multidimensional poverty. Over 51%. Over 40% suffer from stunted growth.
Resulting from malnutrition.
And 8% are wasting. In a country that has such an act, where the interest of the child is the primary consideration, and those are the stark statistics. Even you don't even need to go far when you are walking on the streets of Nigeria to find out the factual nature of these statistics, because they are there.
Even many of them are out of school.
Exactly.
Many out of school.
Exactly.
I have a very funny experience. My mother-in-law retired as a permanent secretary, Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development in Nowhere. Said there was a time the governor came in, every child that is hawking will be arrested, and they went out one afternoon and grabbed all the children that we are arrested, all the children who were hawking on the street, and brought them to the hall and kept them. One small boy, less than 12 years, rose up his hand and told them that they're actually wasting his time because he would have made some money to buy food to take home. Now that they've arrested him, they don't have anything to eat at home.
You see?
So you see the stark reality. In fact, he said after the boy said that thing, that everybody, like, they couldn't look the boy in the eyes.
Exactly.
And they just bent their head.
Because
and all the kids they arrested walked out.
And the boy gave them facts.
Facts, exactly. That as it is that they don't have anything to eat. Now that brings us to the UK. Yes, there is a legal framework in place. There are practices. There are, provisions to take care of kids here. You want to say something?
No worries.
Okay. They provide at least age of primary and secondary school here. You have secure and free education to
Yes.
attend,
Yeah.
free medical facilities, and so on. So that helps for the practices. But what I want to ask is this. I also do think that there is overkill on the system here in terms of the way they try to protect the kids. I would give you an example and you give me what your thought is. At the beginning of the year, I went to my kids' school where they do parents' evening.
Yeah.
You know, at the middle of the term, they come and tell you how the kids is faring and so on.
Yeah.
I went to the first teacher, told me how my kids is faring, but okay, they're also making sure that their mental health is not impacted. I kept quiet. I went to the second teacher after telling me what's happening, and he also told me so that they also make sure that their mental health. I went to the third teacher. He said the thing. I said, come, this is the third person is telling you are saying this thing. What is it that will stress a child to have a mental health issue except to wake up, get ready, go to school and work hard? And the teacher started laughing. I said, this thing I said now is just what he's telling his kids at home. So much as we want to protect the kids, do you think that there is this overprotection in the UK that the kids are not allowed to develop to the full potential?
I think I would disagree with that.
Okay.
When it comes to the mental health, that's where we talk about the emotions, with the child having an emotion. So you have stated that what the child is supposed to do, why would that child have a mental health issues? Again, you forgot that they have peers. They have peer group. You don't know what is going on in that child. Maybe something is happening in the family that the child is not happy with.
Okay.
Maybe something is going on in the school environment, friends and all those things that the child is not happy with. So we kind of ignore that aspect. So I suppose that's what that teacher meant by, because they are checking all those things. So if they find out that the child is getting withdrawn, they might want to know. Again, when you ask me about the red flag, what is it? What are the signs? Suddenly a child that used to be very polite, the child that plays around, happy, and then they started seeing that child getting withdrawn. That's the mark that something is, happening. This is the era of social media. A lot of things is happening in social media. You don't know who the child is engaging with in the social media. You don't really know what is going on. So that emotional aspect, because we can't see it, we kind of sometimes take it very lightly.
No, yes, okay. Let me come in again. Because I said at the beginning of this podcast, we are talking life experience and dishing out life skills.
Yes,
and most of the things I'm talking about are things I have experienced. I also have a feeling that a lot of times migrants, we need to be more careful because we can easily be picked out. Probably in the school your kid attends, he might be the only black person there, or maybe 2 or 3 black person. And once you have one in a multitude that is different, you can easily pick the child out.
Child becomes conspicuous.
Yes, exactly. That's the right word. It becomes conspicuous. And a lot of times, the authority, they pick things that they are not supposed to pick because this person is conspicuous.
Yes.
Even he has a oil stain on his shirt.
Exactly.
It may be a case of he's not being taken care of at
Exactly.
home. So is that, have you had that kind of experience, or is it a possibility? Migrants being picked out because they are conspicuous in terms of child protection.
Again, we are all professional. We know the prejudice, we know the discrimination. So it's all over the, people with people that are migrants. Again, this prejudice, someone doesn't know you, but they know a lot of things that are not even correct about you. So you've been judged even before by the way you look, by your skin color, that prejudice is there already. So people tend to have that kind of misunderstanding. So they hear so many things that is not correct, and they don't have a way of checking it out. So I think for me, in social work, they are trying to do cultural sensitivity, trying to make people to learn about people's culture, how people behave.
What do you mean this cultural sensitivity? Is it teaching the social workers in the field?
There's a provision for that training.
Good.
And where I work, fortunately. So I think when I started in that job many years ago, it was only me and one other person that looks different. But right now we have like 15 of them,
Okay.
15 people like me.
That's
So
impressive.
that shows that they are now bringing people
Yeah.
that have that come from different areas.
Yes.
In terms of the culture, in terms of how people behave. So you are very right that people. I will give you an instance. So I had opportunity when I was working with a family. So that family happened to be an African family. So some of the things that we picked up, to me, I would say it didn't really make sense. It's not supposed to be a problem. It's
Okay.
not supposed to go under child protection,
Right,
but it
yeah.
went under child protection due to the language difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
The parents of the child did not understand. They don't understand English as
yeah.
much as, so they have limited understanding of English language. So when the worker that was responsible had an expectation, and this woman didn't know, she would knock on the door and ask. And the woman will say, "Oh, how can somebody come to my door and be doing like that?" And then she will shut the door, and then things escalated.
Right.
So, something like that. You are very right that our, people from migrants, when you say migrant, the prejudice is still there. But so far, I believe so many local authorities now are going into cultural training for people to know how different culture behave. And, having people from having migrants again, maybe in social work, different types of different areas of social work, again, is helping.
Thank you for that explanation. I thought of that, and thank God that it's coming from an expert. Barrister Mazi, let me come back to you. When you were expressing the point about all that is wrong in Nigeria and all that's going wrong in Nigeria and continue to go wrong, do you think there is hope? If I was doing a research concerning the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child that has been domesticated in Nigeria, I think about it's actually a state issue. Not all the states have also adopted them in their local legislation. Do you think the states can do better, or is there any hope if states step up and local authorities step up to make things work in Nigeria? Because a child is a child, no matter where you find that child, whether it's in Nigeria, UK, Ghana, or Gambia. The right of a child is a universal convention, United Nations Right on Convention of a Child, and I think it has a similar provision that the right of a child is paramount. So do you think the states can step up their game and make things better?
Definitely. Thank you very much. Definitely, states can definitely do better. The way Nigeria is organized is in such a manner that we have cultural variations. Because if you visit the north, for instance, you will see that there is this culture of children begging on the streets.
Yeah.
That is not part of our culture in the southeast.
Yeah.
So knowledge is not the exclusive preserve of anybody. If states know that their kids are missing out on education and on other welfare issues, they can emulate from other states to make sure that they bring their kids up. Because when you give birth to a child and you allow that child to go out, hawk on the street, beg, you will not even be aware of when the child has ill-fitting clothes, ill-fitting shoes, which are incidents.
Even when the child is
sick or hungry, which are indices that will make you to know that this child is at risk.
Right.
So definitely states can emulate, but the concern I have in particular about Nigeria is because the culture and the religion makes it very, very difficult for such emulation to happen and for Nigeria to be harmonious in the way they, do things. Because this state might even, a state in the north, for instance, Afara State, which declared sometime in 1999 that it starts implementing Sharia law. It might tell you that you are trying to dip hands into their Sharia legal system. And if you look into it, you may see that there are certain practices they might be doing there which will totally be abhorrent to a state in the South.
Like their age of marriage.
Exactly.
Which is
Exactly, which is so low.
Which
You
is
know?
we do not even want to go there. Sister Anne, I know there is a kind of the law 2014 Children's Act in the UK made provision for interagency link cooperation to safeguard the right of a child. I mean, for child protection. You want to talk us through or give us an example of how that works and like mention some of the agencies that work together?
So thank you very much for that question. Remember you said, how do we know when, that red flag, how do we know? So you as a parent might not know what is going on. It might be a normal practice for you to do ABC, to use a normal thing. But then a child goes to the school, present very hungry or very tired, for some of them that stays in the internet all night.
You go to school and be dozy.
It's your responsibility to put that boundary, because they're still children, regardless. So depending on how that child presents, the school have the responsibility. That class teacher that is working directly one-to-one with that child has known that child, or maybe the child is new, maybe the teacher is seeing something that is unusual. So as a human being, they have that responsibility. They might be wrong. They might be wrong. Maybe the child is unwell or something like that. They will check at first instance to know what is wrong. Then they will speak to that child. Whatever the child says, then depends on so if the child say, oh, my mom hits me or my dad hits me, or if the child disclose anything that looks very, very unsafe, so they have that responsibility to flag it up to the social work services. So if it involves beating a child, smacking a child, anyhow you put it on, so that one is, they will escalate it to the police, and it is their responsibility. They're not gonna tell you, because you are the, how do they call it, the perpetrator, right? That's the one, right? So they
Suspect.
so they won't tell you. So they will, first of all, they have that duty. So let's forgive our teachers, or any other person. That is what they feel. So it's now left for them, because they don't have the, they have the role to flag it up. They are not the ones that will take action. Their own is just to say that I'm concerned about ABC. So someone who is now expert on that direction will then step in.
This thing you mentioned, not telling you. My first experience when my wife was pregnant with her first child, the first antenatal she attended, they took her in and kept me into the waiting room.
I know you're saying they were asking her. And those papers must concern you.
What happened? Whether she actually consented to this?
It's not a peculiar experience, because
was there a case of was she compared? Does she want to keep the pregnancy?
See, in my GP, sorry to cut you. See, in my GP, they wrote that any unconsented sex is rape. It's written there. It doesn't matter whether you're husband or wife.
But we went for an antenatal in my church wife. There can't be the reason I'm too kind about it. And that brings me to this issue. Sometimes what we know, and sorry to say this, social workers have a notorious reputation.
Actually, that is true. Anytime you are told that
social worker, you don't want a social worker to knock on you.
don't want that all.
Especially we are Africans.
Exactly.
Whenever I hear social work, what I'm thinking, where is my Nigerian passport?
So some people will believe, the child is gonna be removed.
Yes,
taking my children away.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. It is a case of they are going to look out for signs and red flags, and even trying to create one where there was none. And there's sometimes there's a way you ask some kids question, and something that was not in the way they will answer you brings an issue. Like, I know my kids will go to school and tell me the interaction they have with their fellow kids, and the way my wife will react to it will be different. Sometimes they will tell me, if this happens in Nigeria, what we normally do, we go to the back of a class and the two kids fight and sort it out. So I think that's a notorious, sorry, I'm using that word, reputation for looking for red flags where there is none.
Okay.
I wanted to ask something that is in connection with what he has said.
Yeah,
is there a kind of scale, by the social workers that people used to measure the level of things you will see, and then you consider it an abuse. You understand?
Yes, thanks for that question. So, we have there is something that we call the child's assessment.
Okay.
Initially
Very
when you're
important.
going out. So, first of all, when the phone to say ABC happen, so it will come through the social work line, and the people who are there that are responding to emergency will weigh the information and then think they will make that decision whether there is a need to look for it further. And see, when you say our people, I don't, people who are migrants, we migrated to this place. Some of our, we don't have history. Some of us have stayed a very long time, so we don't have issues. They can just go into the system and see your history. There's no problem. They will now check, so if your first child is 18, is there any history? This country have a way of, your record. You need to make sure that it's all clean.
What they need to put is they put your name, put your date of birth, press enter.
Everything. So they will check the GP, they will check the health record, they will check the police record, all those things. Then they will come back quickly and now say, I have checked this, I haven't seen anything from here, I have spoken with the GP, there is nothing there, the police. So, okay, what should we do now? Now, because we have that responsibility to safeguard the child, we don't know. So maybe they will look at it and say, okay, let's call this parent, let's just phone, or let's go and just speak to that parent, because you don't know the child that is under your watch. What you don't want to hear is story that you're supposed to go, you didn't go. So we are doing our job as professional. We are not targeting anybody, just like the way. So there is a way.
I'm not saying we are targeting the reputation.
It's a reputation that they are
attacking you personally.
So we have obviously there are criteria. And when they come and chap the door and ask that simple question and then feel, look at the home, the home is clean, there is a food, there is this and there is that, there is no concern. I'll be very quick to close the case. You don't want to.
So, sister, let me apologize again. I'm not attacking you personally. Lawyers are the reputation we have as lawyers are liars.
There is this comment you made now that I want to ask something about. So when you say that you will very quickly close the case, I've had instances where we went to assent an emergency and the person at the reception there asked, do you have social work involvement?
Yes.
Now, if such a thing happens and you quickly close the case, does he keep a record
of?
Yes,
you understand? On that person's file, to the extent that even though you know that nothing emanated from this thing, but there is a record that has been closed. You understand? So
okay, that's a very, very important point.
So that's a very valid point that you're making. So any contact, just like when you have a contact with the police, you make a phone call, it's recorded in the system. They will open a file for you quickly and give you a reference number. So that's what happens to the social work services. As soon as someone phones and says something, they will open up a file and write, and make that document. It doesn't mean that they will make a reference to it. But you are presenting a child. Maybe the hand of that child is burnt. Or maybe the ankle is broken, something. They need to check. They will ask you at first instance to see. Then they will go there and check. And then from that A&E, they are the ones that will flag it to, relevant authorities. So that's where we all work together. And from that legislation that you made mention about, so when a child is below 3, below 5, so they have health visitor. Is that below 3?
It's 5.
Is that 5?
Yes.
So the named person.
The frequency at which they will be coming when it's much younger will be
more.
So you remember when that child is 3 years, they will come and let you know that this child is due to go to nursery. Sometimes they will help you to find. So they are the health visitor is a named person under that 2014 law that you mentioned. So it's the named person. So when government, when government is looking after, they want to know. So this health visitor is responsible for any child below 5 years. You understand? So as soon as they enter primary school, it becomes the head teacher will be the named person.
So
you understand?
From the head visitor to the head teacher.
So someone knows where that child is. According to that. So they call them the named person.
I recall there was a story you told me when your kids had activity in school. You wanted to take them back home
Yes.
before close of time.
Yes.
And the head teacher didn't
Yeah.
allow.
Exactly.
Now he's connected
Exactly.
because he's an end person. He's going to account for that child and he's supposed to be in her custody with this period of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Now,
so
now
you
it's
know
making-
when the child, although is in Glasgow, what they now do is that you phone a line. Usually you phone a school. Before now you phone school, to let them know that child is not coming. Yeah, if you don't do that, it will be documented.
Yeah.
So if anything happens, they will make reference.
Now, sister, it's a case of you have to almost be like Jesus Christ to be blameless. When you have a child. you have to be not Jesus Christ or deputy Jesus Christ to be blameless because everything goes into record. Now, that record, I know for criminal records, depending on the level of offense, some stay for 3 years, 2 years, or some stay there for a longer period of time. For a case that is quickly closed, that there's no issue. How long does it stay in the record? Does it stay there until the child turns an adult?
To the best of my knowledge, I think it will be there, but they will just say don't make reference. That kind of thing. Don't make reference. Especially now that we have a database system. So it doesn't really go out like that. It will still be but they won't make any reference to that.
Okay, that's fine. Now, let me bring us to another very huge topic, a subtopic on this issue of child protection, which we may not exhaust today. The issue of online safety.
Okay.
In 2023, my daughter turned 13, May 2023. And starting from January, Google started sending me email that your daughter's account, she's turning 13 in May. Your daughter will be old enough to manage her account. And I almost went into bed. And they were sending me this like every 2 weeks.
I received the same. I received the same, yeah.
It was a kind, I said, these people, are they laying ambush for me? Do they want to take the child away? I was genuinely afraid for her safety because of, I know as an adult, the kind of things I see online, the things that even pop up for me, the things I stumble into, the things I don't, it's like I don't deliberately go out to look for them.
Exactly.
Now, how do you guys deal with this issue of online safety for kids? Because I know for every parent, it's a nightmare. Some kids have committed suicide because of the contents they saw online, the things they read, the peer pressure, and so on. So how does the social work services and system manage this online safety for kids? Because I know it's a huge issue.
Yeah, it's a huge issue, and I know you'll be aware of this discussion that they are looking at how to stop children from having using social media accounts until they get to certain
13.
age.
Yeah, 13.
Yeah,
13.
Okay.
For all the social media handles. I know TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, which other one? All of them, except the online streaming services that requires you to get to 18, Netflix and Spotify. These are the ones that requires you to get to 18. But these other ones are 13. Yeah. And for me, 13 is such a young age to hand over a child to the online community.
But this online
Safety Act
now, I understand that it's no longer a question to verify the age of a child or any person who wants to sign up to certain websites. When they require you to verify your age, it's no longer a question of just ticking the box. That there is a process you need to go, which might include providing certain form of ID to verify, so that somebody who is underage will not just tick the box and
now even when you provide, my argument and my fear is at 13. I still do think that it prevents kind of presents a huge risk for the safety of a child at age of 13.
Definitely. As far as I am concerned, it does. And the thing there is that Google or the government thinks that at that age that you should allow your kids to have independent access to their online stuff, which I don't consider appropriate. Because from our culture, a child at 20 years, you are still living with your parents.
You are still a child. You are
still a child, yes. Living with your parents.
But that age of 20 is that's going too far.
No. In our system, that's what I'm saying. Hardly would you see somebody in our culture, a child at the age of 20, who is independently living alone.
Yeah, but we don't live in Nigeria at the moment. So I'm thinking 20 years is too beyond. So, but sister, what
From
is
your
there?
question.
What is the social work system doing in terms of this online safety?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't really have much say about that because we are relying on the police, we are relying on the government, to come up with ideas. First of all, it's not the social work services are not purchasing phone for their children. The parents are the ones.
Exactly.
So the only thing that they do is that the school tries to mitigate that by telling them not to use their phones in school, within a certain time to lock away their phones and all that. So I think it's still with the education to do whatever they want to do. But in terms of social work services, there is limited they can do about that. So if somebody puts something online, or if you can't really, to be honest, they are relying on parents, to find a way. You are buying the phone for your child. You should be responsible for helping that child to manage, things like that. But if anything escalates in terms of them watching this or watching that, the police are there for it to be escalated to. I remember I was in training where they were talking about this topic, how do we safeguard children? And how, so some people were now saying that it's too much responsibility, that is that they are given to social work services. The only thing is that when a concern comes, maybe somebody exposes someone in nude picture and all that, they will phone the police. School might have the responsibility of maybe suspending the person, or any action, but within the social work services, to be honest, I think that is limited.
Okay, let me just kind of follow up question. You said that parents were the ones buying the phones for the kids, and you are very much correct. I can't argue with that. And part of the things in child protection that happens is prosecution of the perpetrator. If the child buys that food and something at risk or a risk eventually materializes and the child is harmed or abused through online, is there a kind of vicarious liability on the parents for probably not monitoring the gadget?
No,
he or she bought for the child.
I suppose the police are the ones that are in a very position to make decisions. But I think the child that has the phone knows the boundaries.
Yeah.
That's why they're teaching them online things in the school, creating awareness. So they understand the boundaries in it. But children, they can be nosy at times, doing what they are not supposed to do. But as long as the parents, you did not have any plan with your child to go and do ABC, the parents will not be held responsible. That child. And I'm not too good in the criminal law.
We can help
that's
you
your
with
area.
That.
So I think there is an age in Scotland where if a child does something, that child
criminal responsibility.
Whether it's 12 or
in Nigeria is 11, but if you are 7, you can be criminally liable if you understand, have the capacity to understand what you're doing at that time.
In Scotland now, it's 12. And I understand that there is even discussion to see if they can put the age further up. Because from medical evidence, they said the frontal lobe of the brain of children is still developing even up to the age of 25.
Right.
So when you hold them, that's why some rational decisions are not easily made by children. They need to leave it for adults. So when you hold them criminally responsible at the age of 12, when physiologically they've not developed that part of their human body, so it doesn't really help them in the long run.
Okay,
you understand?
Okay, sister, let me ask again on the issue of this child protection. One of the things that could be done to protect a child is taking that child away from the parents and putting that child which is a very, very big issue in foster care.
Especially for us black communities.
It's almost like sacrilegious. Now, have you had social work? Have you had social work? So it's almost like if that happens, the person would want the world to end.
Yes, it's always terrible for people.
It's unimaginable.
Exactly.
It's unimaginable. But I think the reason why I laughed is, that is really how what we think. But in practice, it's not like that.
Okay.
Removing a child is a significant step.
Right.
That people take, and it doesn't happen overnight. So, however, let me break it into pieces. So, for instance, if a child goes to school and disclose that something happened, maybe harm or abuse or whatever that's happening at home. So, again, the school will trigger to the social work services. And then at that point, they might decide to phone the police depending on what is involved. They might then do joint visits to the family, or they might ask the family, the social work to go at first instance. So now, when it's involved physical, going physical abuse, they might tend to take that child away at that day. Not removing the child from you, but they will check, do you have any relative? They will find, because they said any action that we are taking should be beneficial to that child, should be less restrictive, at that proportionate. So they will try and check whether, see, when you're registering your child, there is another person, contact person, emergency contact,
in schools. Yeah.
So they will check.
Barrister, you are the emergency contact for my kids.
Exactly.
So they will check that emergency contact, and if that person will be able to accommodate. So they're only removing the child temporarily to do an investigation, because when that child they don't know what is going to happen. So at that point, it's just an investigative stage. So they will remove the child and place it on emergency contact person. But the issue we have, because we are migrants, you might not know anyone, especially when you're new. I have worked with a family, they came in certain point in the year, and then the following, just within the space of 1 month. You understand? So then they didn't see their name in the system. There was no history. Then the person that they phoned to come in, I believe they have checked the person, and maybe they didn't get any history. So they made that decision. Okay, let's remove these children. And one of the things that happen is that if there are 3 children in the family, and there's only one that made the decision, unfortunately, 3, all of them will be removed at that point, just to do the investigation.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
So let me ask something.
Ask
So in a situation where, because I know that, for instance, when people want to foster kids, there are certain investigations that are made, including the number of bedrooms that they have, to make sure that they can do that. So what if the emergency contact is, by virtue of their home where they are living, is not able to accommodate the whole children, when it's not a question of removing only one child? You need to remove all the kids.
All the children.
Is that not what leads to this fear that we have, that as Black communities, our children will be taken and given to white people? Because most of us don't live in houses.
So what happened is that, so at that initial stage, like I said, they want to take least restriction, just something that is proportionate to that person. They still want to keep the child within the community. You understand? So they will check this information they're looking for now. But when is maybe if the emergency contact is not able to accommodate, they will look for other people. They will check if you have other people, and then they will vet the name. They will go to the system.
So it has to be a case where they would keep these children together. And that's
they will try and find, because this is an emergency thing.
Yes,
so it's an emergency response.
And it's temporary.
It's not a permanent.
Yeah.
Okay. Remember, it's just the investigative stage. So, just to find out that information that was disclosed. Is it correct? What happened? And do you need any help?
Let me ask now. We are talking of when there's a red flag.
Yes.
A risk flag.
Yeah, something was disclosed in school, or somebody reported something.
From some few minutes back, we said there are some preliminary investigations that can be done, and you can close the case quickly.
Yes.
Is it in all circumstances, when you are moving steps forward to the investigation, that you take these kids away? Or
depending on what is disclosed.
Okay.
So depending on they said we weigh the risk and the benefits. So it really depends on what that child
from your experience, what are the kind of things, issues neglect, abuse, violence.
So if something
that
is
could
physical,
trigger this,
if something went physical, the child, they beat a child, there is mark and, there are other things. Even if there is no mark at first instance, we are not in a position to do that. They will refer to medicals for that to be checked out.
Yeah, and I know that in Scotland, legislation now is that you can't even touch a child at all.
Yeah.
even pulling the child's ear is prohibited.
Yeah.
In fact, if you hit
As
your
a
child
form
on
of
the head,
punishment.
yes, as
Yeah,
a form
you
of
don't do
punishment.
that.
there's no corporal punishment anymore.
Yeah, so you don't do that.
You don't.
Yeah,
I think it's a big,
if you do that, it's a criminal.
It's a criminal offense, yes.
So the police is gonna charge you. Why the
Exactly.
social worker doing
He's
that?
doing
So
their
you
own.
have two people.
So while you are in jail, your child will be taken care of by another sister. There's always this argument that most kids raised in foster home, chances of them succeeding in terms of living a normal life, not joining gangs, not derailing, is very, very limited. That's always, it's always like it's a testimony. Somebody grew up in foster care or foster home and made it in life or become a responsible adult. So it tells you all you need to know. That does that sound like it's actually the proper thing? It could be a case of out of an anger, a parent, I'm not advocating for that, that had some physical abuse on the child and is removed and taken to a foster care where the child's situation will even be worse. I had a story. In fact, they phoned me from Nigeria to see if I could help them. It's a Nigerian family, to see if I could help them. They took away the kids because I think it was a case of mildly smacking a child, and they took the kids away. And to the extent that the kids were crying that they want to go back to their parents, and that didn't happen. So would that be a case of killing a fly with a sledgehammer? You take the child away because of this minor thing and take her to a foster care where at the end of the day it might turn out worse than what you are trying to prevent.
I suppose what I'm saying here is, as a professional, I've been there. Okay, so some of the things that people say are untrue.
Right.
So that's just what I need to assure you.
Okay.
So see, when someone alleges, oh, my child has been taken, I didn't do anything, it's a lengthy process. So I started by giving you what happens at that first instance. So they will look for, let me tell you again, there is no money, there is no resources. So taking a child to a foster home costs a lot of money. Okay. I think it's up to 700 per week for a child.
Really?
So it's expensive. So governments want to cut, there is no money. So they want to cut it as much as possible. Again, the best interest of the child, something that will benefit the child and proportionate.
So that means it's not an action they take at the first instance.
No. So it's the process. So like I was giving an example. So if that child is removed for investigation, maybe to a family member, if they don't see a family member at that point, or maybe you're new in the country, you don't know anyone, they will then take to foster. And they will try and complete that investigation. There is a time frame. I think some of them are either 10 days, depending, 15 days, 20, maximum 28. If it's going to reach up to that 28. So they look at all those things. If it's a case of referring for medicals, they will do the medicals, and then they will come and then have discussion and say, we did not find any evidence. Or they will check. Again, they are not coming to be, they are not overcritical. They're only, it's just like me and you. Because I'm doing the job, that's why I'm saying what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You understand? So nobody wants to criticize you. Nobody wants to remove your child. It's just that we just need to make sure that we are all working together. You understand?
Let me ask now. I know, Barrister, you are an expert in criminal law as well. When somebody commits a crime and is prosecuted and convicted, there is sentencing guidelines.
Yes.
There are occasions where you tap the person at the back, don't do this again, or give the person fine or remand instead of going to prison.
Yeah.
Is that the case in social work? We are okay.
Yeah, so I will explain that. So in that process, depending on what they might decide, okay, maybe this is a poor parenting.
Okay.
Maybe this is just one-off. Or maybe this child is just, overreacting. They will look at all those things, address it, with, the family, and then they will decide to close the case. So one of the things that I will encourage people to do is that as soon as they say they are closing the case, make sure you get a letter to say that we have looked into this, there is nothing. Then the children will be,
Please make that point again.
You need to make this point.
Make that
Very,
point.
very
Let our viewers
important. Yes.
understand. It's very, very
So,
important. Well, we are not encouraging them to go and abuse their kids,
Yes.
but
just in case if something happen, we all have children, you know. And again, see our social workers, everybody have different skills that they are bringing to the, to the job. People who don't understand your culture, there are people who don't understand the way you behave, so how you interact, how you make that section for you guys during that interaction is very important. So like I said, so they will look into that case, and if they decide that there is no risk, there is nothing, the children will be quick. If they remove the children, that at the need, they will return the children. That's it.
Oh, so that's the aim of the time scale, so that they complete the investigation and return the kids.
You're having your children.
Your advice is make sure you get proper documentation.
So as soon as they say that they close the case, try and tell the worker, please, can we have a letter to say that this has been closed? Very important. Because sometimes social work services will look at things and then decide they won't close the case. Maybe they have referred it to the police, and the police are doing the investigation. And then at some point they will call you back and say police has found that you did this. Therefore, you understand. So it's not a straightforward case. But please, in terms of removing a child, is a whole lot of process. So assuming that they find that that parent, they need parental training, they will refer you to the parental training.
Brilliant.
They will check so many things, and then if they feel that they need to refer the case to child protection, then there's something that they call the children reporter. I don't know if you heard about children reporter Scotland. So they are the ones that will make the decision. So the social work services will be in that meeting. If the police is involved, the police will come, the parents, the children, then they will have a meeting to find out, what happened. And then they will then make the decision, we are concerned about this time, therefore let's go further towards the child protection process. They will invoke the child protection process. And then what it means is that the social work services have the responsibility to be coming to your house every week.
Wow.
So, it's a matter of you must engage.
Yeah.
So is it, sorry for cutting you short, is it coming to your house every week because the child is still living with you?
Yeah, because
or even when
it's
the child
part
is
of
not
the
living with you?
process. No, if the child is living with you, so if the child is living with you, they will be coming. If the child is still removed, it's a meeting. So they will establish a contact place for you to be going to be seeing the children. So they will come in there to monitor. That's what they call contact, to see how you're.
Sister, thank you, Sister, thank you so much for this very, very beautiful explanation. You hear a lot of things. That's why I said this is a very educating, entertaining, and a process of unpacking a lot of things that looks mysterious to all of us.
Exactly.
One last question with you. With what Sister Anne has been describing, Scotland, the process, the social work, interagency coordination, the preliminary investigation, oh my God. Do you think there's a hope for Nigeria?
I don't think so. I'm sorry to be pessimistic about Nigeria.
I think I will stop bringing
I don't
this
think so.
podcast.
I don't think there is any hope. Because for a people who want there to be hope for their kids, you will see that they are taking steps towards that. Even when those steps have not been successful, at least you see steps being established.
Yeah.
There used to be universal basic education, but every time people are calling me at home that I should give them money to pay school fees. School fees for what? There's universal basic education. They tell you that's in the news. It's not that in practice.
Because do you know here it's compulsory for a child to go to school from primary, from nursery or to from primary.
Yes.
So that child must be in school. If they are not, the parents, they can take you to it can invoke child protection if that is not happening.
Well, thank you so much, Sister Anne. Please. Thank you for coming. I just want you to put out a kind of one last piece of advice for migrants to be able to, navigate this tricky and, slippery waters of child protection. Yes. What do you have out there for the migrants?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think what I will advise everyone is when you come into the country, try and find out the way they behave, what they do, what is applicable and what is not applicable. For instance, in terms of people who are driving, the country say you have to drive with a valid driving license. Make sure you drive it. So when you have a child, make sure you know the law, ask questions.
Yeah.
If possible, start attending your local organizations. If your people have, for instance, if there are any local group, go there, join them, find out. Then if you have any social work issues, don't beat a child. Let me say that one. Do not beat a child. You are not allowed to beat a child in Scotland. So do not do that. Look after your child. If anything happens, social work is approaching you. They are not coming to take your children away. Listen to them, work with them, know what they are saying. Okay. So removing a child is a lengthy process. It doesn't happen overnight. And another thing I need to encourage we that are migrants, there is something we call, I've made mention of the Children Reporter. Please go online, check what Children Reporter is. You can actually be one of the members of the panel who make this decision whether a child needs to go to child protection or need to be removed. If you're not going, I made a presentation in one of the group, and somebody actually applied for that child reporter, and the person is now a member of the panel, which I really love that news. So I will encourage you guys, if you have time, go just check what child reporter is all about. Is a voluntary thing. Go there and be part of the panel to make decisions.
I've heard about children hearing.
Okay.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
That's a very
anybody
nice
can be part of it. So that's you bring your own culture.
I'm just hearing it for now.
Yes,
I'll probably go and check it out, and I've learned that one today. That's why I said this is very, very educating.
I know it's a voluntary something.
I'll go and take that out and see.
They will train you.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's also a very good skill to add
to your CV. Yes,
even if it's the only one child that
Mazi, thank you so much. Thank you, Mazi.
Thank you,
Barrister Njoku. It's always a pleasure to have you here. And Stan, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, sister.
Thank you for the work you do for the community, for migrants. From this discussion, you will all agree with me that the issue of child protection is not only for the experts, it's for the parents, it's for the teachers, it's for all of us in our local communities, even in our churches, place of worship, even where we work, even our local communities where we meet as migrants. Let's be our brother's keeper. And to our viewers, thank you so much for staying with us. And if you've not been watching our episodes, go there, subscribe, share, like, comment. The handle is Glascast Podcast on every social media handle: YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and very soon we'll be hitting Spotify.
Definitely.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And see you in the next episode.
Thank you.